Coming up in today's show.
Later, he was down in the bathroom and I spent 50 minutes trying to resuscitate the man back. And basically what I seen everyone was unfaithful to everyone, and I just said to myself, is this what society had gone? Because soul loss is a thing that occurs, it can occur in any individual, it can occur from the day you're born, even within the wound of the mother. And if you don't know yourself as a person, like, you're very easy manipulated and controlled.
Yeah, that's next.
But when you open up yourself at night and when you go to sleep, our body does leave every night and goes some, but some people don't know that anyway.
Yeah, you're in throughout history, there has, with major events, there is always documentation of someone who got a vision before it happened.
Yeah.
The Titanic is one of them. You could look.
Not all superheroes wear capes. Some wear wellies.
He is a shaman, of all things. Mr. Vincent Byrne.
Well, first of all, it's a pleasure to meet you, James. I have met you on a few occasions and had the pleasure of being in your reinstated... What will we say?
Don't give the secrets
well,
away.
it's actually... I think I had to admire about you, James, the respect you have and how you utilise things all the time and how you bring things on and you move them on with times, but still respect the old times.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
We try to do that. So
No, I had to give you credit, James, for succeeding at it.
Well, thank you very much. As I said, it's a little cowshed that's a podcast studio, so you have the modern stuff and you have the old stuff in the background. And we're attempting to do it.
Yeah, so, but you see, this is the situation, and it's about us all, and me as a shaman, and I can see you're a man that has respect for things too. You have respect for the energy that has been in this, and you're kind of like utilising it, so you're continuing on for the next situation too. So one time people used to come to the concept, what is old is no good and discard.
Yeah.
But what is old is good to you and you're renewing it.
Yeah.
And this is where the concept of us as human beings is about respect and bringing on and tradition and everything else.
Yeah.
So that's where myself now as a shaman, I tell you how I opened up my spiritual route. It would be actually 10 years next year.
When you started on the spiritual journey?
Well, I tell you how I started. I started with the loss of my father. He was 63 years of age and nice man. A friend, a person I looked up to, and an inspiration in life and a great guide. And he opened up the door to me, and 5 minutes later he was down in the bathroom and I spent 50 minutes trying to resuscitate the man back. And I realised life was short.
Yeah.
So then I studied up life and I studied up my surroundings and all. And a year and a half after that, I changed my life around rapidly. So I started studying into mindset. And I was looking at mindset and studying up other people's mindset and studying up my own mindset. And studying up what way people ticked. So I was doing a constant observation of people. And when I looked at people and I looked at society in general, I just said to myself, this is turned into one toxic mess. That people were actually going around and they didn't really know what they were doing, but they were participating in something. And if you sat down and asked, what are you doing in life? They still didn't know, but they were doing something.
Yeah.
So I said to myself then, I said, did you ever spend a bit of time reflecting on life? And not too many people can sit with themselves.
Yeah.
And actually look deep into themselves to see what they are. So then I was above in a village, it was called the Devil's Half Acre. I'd done a bit of a job up there. And basically what I seen everyone was unfaithful to everyone, and I just said to myself, is this what society had gone? Because I would have been out of society as such for 18 years. I would have been settled in a home, and well, a year and a half after my father died, I left my marriage because I knew well the marriage wasn't working. So from that then, I done a bit of bioenergy, and then from that then, I went off and I trained to be a shaman with an Aldo Jordan down in Castlerea. mentor. I take him as a mentor. He brought me on leaps and bounds. So from that then, I spent my time training as a shaman. And I have trained since to be shamanic ceremonies where I can do baby naming ceremonies, hand fasting ceremonies, and in the light ceremonies, and shamanic counselling. So me as an aspect of a shaman, when I will be dealing, I will deal with a lot of people, we say, that has gone through serious traumas in life. They've probably gone to all aspects of life and they have seen no resolving of it. And when you get talking to them people, you go into a sense of dialogue. First you sit down, you have a conversation with them, and basically the biggest amount of the situation is a thing called soul loss. So soul loss is a thing that occurs. It can occur in any individual. It can occur from the day you're born, even within the womb of your mother, with traumas. So you start doing shamanic journeys. So that would be a lower world journey to gather soul pieces. And with that, I'm having a very positive effect on it. Now, it's not a one-stop shop. I mightn't sort straight away, but with maybe 2 or 3 sessions, people's lives have changed around.
What does one of these sessions look like?
Well, basically, one of these sessions, what it would look like, I will bring in one-on-one. I would have a conversation with the person, see what state they're in and what's the current condition, and then I will bring them on a shamanic journey. And with that, that's with breath work and it's with using the shamanic drum. So I bring them into a theatre situation where they go into a subconscious situation with the drum. So then next thing I start guiding them into their journey. Now, I have multiple gateways and portals, which could be into a tree, could be into a waterfall, could be down into a cave. And with that, then, to go back to the time of trauma. And when you go back to the time of trauma, it's all depending on what age you are. If it happened at 8, there's a part of you at the age of 8, and they'll meet that person at 8, and they will have dialogue with that person at 8. And they will encourage that 8-year-old to come back into them again. So with that, then, the 8-year-old or whatever age person will come back with, and then that's your soul piece gathered. So then after that, you do sound vibration over them to blend in the part of the soul that has been disconnected. And then with that, then you tell them abstain from any alcohol or drugs for 5 days and kind of keep away from negative energy. And I have done a journal on all this situation. I have a journal now for 3 years in relation to the people I worked with, and their life has changed around immensely. But then there can be a situation then that you maybe have you might have perfect childhood, perfect life the whole way through, and you still have this want in you. It's a void. And that can go back to ancestral linkage, because you can be born into this earth and it might be a problem that could be generations beforehand, but that's within in your soul, because the soul is a renewable thing, because it's an energy and your soul never ends.
Do you believe that's the way it is with all souls? Like, I have a personal belief where not all of us have actually been here before. Is that a possibility?
Well, I have done work on this precise time on excess of 300 people. And I have never met a person yet between Akashi Records and everything else that they haven't been here before. But there's nothing to say that there can be a person that could be their first time round. I haven't met them yet, but I'd be pleasure to come along and meet someone that has actually came that way. Yeah. But I know myself, to get myself right, I had to go back 15 generations ago to actually sort out the ancestral link which was within me. And from that then, I was into one journey, and I had to open up 2 journeys within a journey, and that journey took an hour and a half. See, I would be constantly journeying on myself too, because it's instead a small bit like you have to maintain yourself. So my journey it would be to maintain myself, that I will be up to a certain psychological, spiritual fitness, and to have myself protected from all elements. it's a bit like your car. You have to service your car every so often, but people do seem to go along and to go through day-to-day stuff, and they don't seem to even take an aspect of looking at that part of maintenance of themselves.
In
See,
many elements of themselves, be it health, and other ways, like, they kind of take themselves for granted, is it? Or
well, they don't seem to really, that part of life is never put across to anyone, because they don't really want anyone knowing that side of thing, because once you don't know that side of thing, it's called the disconnect. And when you look at the overall agenda within the world, it's a matter of control. And if you don't know yourself as a person, like, you're very easy manipulated and controlled.
Yeah, that's next.
But when you come along and you get to fully complete yourself and everything else, like, you're a lot different person going forward. You're not anxious going out in society or anything else, because people do be very anxious going out in society. But what is the cause of that? And when you go back in depth into that, that's back into soul loss. And I have dealt with people that would have been within psychiatric units, would have been heavily on medication.
Do you feel that soul loss is a manufactured thing by society, though?
Well, the way...
Or is it just a loss of connection over
Well,
generations?
it's a situation, we say, if you go back centuries ago, everyone had a different aspect of energy. They had a different aspect of their higher beings and everything else. But then we came into society then, and we were kind of like diluted each time. Like, the Catholic Church was the biggest dilution that ever came in the country. And they actually brought stuff, because when you go through to the true origins of this land, this was paganism here. And they were a lot more powerful people than what anyone ever imagined, and had a lot more respect for in relation to the day-to-day events. It's all the time it's a disconnect. So when you got into a stage that you were in the church then, and then there was this thing that it was looking up to a man within a black and a white collar. And it was like a dominating figure, but within a spirituality or shamanism or paganism, there's none of that. We're all on an even playing field, and we all have respect for each other. But you see, they brought in this sense of authority and power. And when authority and power, if it's in the wrong person's hands, is dangerous. And we can see that.
Well, there's another aspect to that too, that, the holy men in the pagan times, and you still see it in kind of India and places like that, they're not on a street corner preaching to people. You have to go and seek them out. And that's something I like about you.
Yeah.
You don't drive any of this down anyone's throat.
Oh.
You're just kind of there, and if they want to find out about it, they can ask you. And,
Yeah.
I like that about you,
Yeah.
because I've known you quite a while, and you've
Yeah.
never gone, this is the way I think, and you should think the same way. It's kind of like, well, this is what I do, and I'm sure if you ever
Yeah.
want to talk about it, talk about
Yeah,
it.
well, that's the way. Well, basically what I was doing, I started putting posts out on social media, and I would just say it as it is. And some people admire me, and some people don't admire me for it. But, the only thing I see social media, I never really got any trolls, thanks for the God. So they must respect me in some way.
Mm.
Because you see other narratives there, you get trolled and trolled and trolled. But myself, anyways, and I have a sense of empowerment. When I would talk about empowerment, it's not my ego either. I have myself conditioned up to such a stage, and have myself distracted from any and them negative energies taken away from me. And I do not participate in negative situations, because I have an aspect in life, and it's a very small little situation. If your intentions is right, things will prosper. And I was often talking to people, and I'd say, if we're going to, it has to all got to do with the intentions. And if the intentions is right at the beginning, universe will reward.
Mm.
But that doesn't really, everyone can't grasp that. Because you see people there to come up with this concept of, and it's just negative, negative, negative. And that's all that's around them is negative. And there's even the whole aura around them, there's no colour. And you do see people there, you're on about souls. Well, there is people there, I call them dead souls. Their soul within them is dead. There's absolutely no bit of light at all within them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's got to do with addictions, unfortunately, some of them. Their style of living and behaviour patterns. Because some individuals, before I'd even talk to them, I would actually do a shamanic journey to get a message. And that message would be, because I have multiple guides to call in, and that message is true and accurate to me. Because I remember it was a long, long time ago, I was involved in the situation within Castlerea town in relation to the migrant situation was coming into the restoration. But I was there one night and I said, this has gone very berserk very quick. But at that night I went home and I'd done a shamanic journey. And what I seen around Castlerea town, I would not like to repeat it. But Castlerea, I knew exactly that you weren't going to do nothing for that town.
So you journeyed into a point in the future. And
I would journey. I would actually do a lower world journey, and I would journey into Castlerea town, and would set me intentions on that, invite in me guides and everything else, set me intentions, and I would get a message about town, and I did. And I got situations, and you get visions of people with their mouth sipped and everything, and you could know.
But it's strange you say that, because I remember well before the COVID thing or that, you know, and I would have my own beliefs. I don't believe in the Catholic Church, but I have my own beliefs. And I do believe that you can communicate with family and that's dead.
Yeah.
And I remember having a very vivid dream, and my grandfather, you know, they were cutting oats in the valley, and then he just brought me for a little trip.
Yeah.
And I seen old people dying in nursing homes.
Yeah.
And I seen shops and all the shelves emptied, and I seen people fighting and all this. And anyways, I kind of says to him, sure, I have to go back now. And he goes, are you sure you want to?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, sure, I have to get back. Like, but it was a very vivid dream, so it was.
But to be honest with you, when you're born into this earth, you have guides. You have multiple guides.
Yes.
And that was a true one after vision. He came to you he's probably a guide for you, and he came to you and he actually gave you a vision.
Yeah.
Because once you open up yourself at night and once you go to sleep, our body does leave every night and goes some, but some people don't know that anyways.
Yeah. You're in
and we're all the time traveling to different situations and getting situations all the time.
Yeah.
But one time when people have said that, they said that there was something psychologically wrong with you.
Yeah.
Because there is people with schizophrenia, but the people that hasn't schizophrenia, they are true and accurate people that are connected to the spiritual world.
Yeah.
But what they want to do with them, they want to give you a medication and categorize it in, and then that's it, you're labelled. Because they don't want these people coming forward speaking. Because we're in a system that they don't want the truth to come out.
Well, remarkably, throughout history, there has, with major events, there is always documentation of someone who got a vision before it happened.
Yeah.
The Titanic is one of them. You could look into that. I used to know her name off by heart, but she got a vision of the Titanic sinking, but her brother didn't go.
Yeah.
Do you know, he trusted her, and it happened. And like, she begged the brother not to, don't go, you know, and tickets bought and the whole lot. But as you says, if that woman had said that now, someone would be saying, right, we're off to the doctor tomorrow morning, you're quite clean. Yeah. Yeah.
But there is people, and they're actually, when you go in and when you go back into our DNA, and each one of us, and back into, each one of us was a shaman. Because if you go back long enough in the linkage is there, and when you go out through life and you get more situated and you get more connected, decoding all the time takes place. So you get this better awareness.
Can I put this to you? I was talking to a fellow one time. He's is that the neighbour's dog, is it? Let him in there if the evening is bad. Sure, he'll be quiet. He's probably barking when we're talking, you see. Ah, yeah. Just Darren is letting the poor little dog in there, so don't he? This fella, and he practices druidism and that.
Yeah.
And he says, what's it called? This is a prison for your soul.
Yeah.
And he says, you can release yourself at any time you want. He says, you just have to come to the conclusion that this is just a prison for your soul. And that we have made the decision to be here.
Well, that is the situation, because when you get into before you come into you sign a contract, and even myself a long time ago, I said to myself, wouldn't you imagine I would have negotiated it a bit better?
Yeah.
But there's lessons to be learned. But then you get to the situation, then if you don't learn the lessons this time round, you'll be back again doing it at the same time again. And multiple times until you learn the lessons. And it's all about life. If you don't learn, you keep doing it again. So that's basically what we are. We're brought into this to go through a certain schedule, and you have lessons to learn. and you can actually change your path at any time.
So it's all in your own hands.
It's all within in your own hands, and the more you go up and yourself up, and the more you get, we say a form of gratitude.
Yeah.
And grateful.
Yeah.
And respect, and you start, because I remember the first time I done a journey to my ancestral island, and I tell you something for nothing. I was met with a lot of angry people, and I said to myself, what the hell is going on here? And it took me a week to get over it, because they were very annoyed people, because you had no recognition for them.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I reckon one of the biggest things at the moment, you said it earlier this evening, and it was a hell of a statement, you know. He says, I like how you talk about your own people, because he says a lot of people don't care about who's living now, let alone who's dead. Yeah. And it is the truth.
Oh, but that is the truth, because, I go around an aspect, I say hello to everyone, and some people get a shock, because, you know, that might be the only person that said hello to them that day.
That's right.
And that's the sad reality about things. People are going around and they're just this tunnel, but the tunnel's going over.
Yeah.
And they're rushing and they're going over.
Yeah.
So what is the rushing for?
You see, this is the, you know, I think this is the conclusion that a lot of people come to when they're old and on their deathbed. You know, it's entirely possible to have spent 80 years getting no closer to why you were here at all. And that's a frightening thought, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, that's what the situation where I was, and with the every time, because I have journeyed through my higher shack. I know when I'm going to die. I travel that much. I know when I'm going to die.
You've seen it.
I've seen it.
That'd be mighty for bravery.
Well, the aspect about it is I have no fear. I have no fear. I had no fear before that, because, you know, when you go through the cycle of life and you get to certain knocks and bangs and everything else, you get to the stage that you have a pain barrier that nothing will affect you. So that is the way I am.
Well, is that what
Do you die old or young, or?
I will die in my 80s. And that would be a great achievement for my family, because unfortunately most of us parents would die in their 60s. Like, it's a very funny situation now. I am actually the oldest male member of our family.
And you're not an old man.
And I'm not an old man. I'm only 45 years of age. So I am the oldest born male member at the moment.
Jesus Christ, that's...
But I have left with a task to change a lot of things, because when I was going through my journey in first at the beginning, and it's awful funny how spirit would actually relay people to you. My father, so used to be a main guide for me at the beginning, and my grandfather. And they said, we knew there was something always wrong, but you're the man to deal with it. And I have seen breakthroughs. I have seen breakthroughs on ancestral language, because I have clean past and I clean future. Because you're constantly working here, you're breaking the tie.
Well, can I ask you a question now? What do you see in the recent future? Because, like, a lot of us believe that there's a lot of death just around the corner. And do you see any of that?
Well, as I said to a person Monday, if I heard about beheading going on, I would be shocked. I'm just waiting for the time. And that's the sad reality about it.
Yeah, I don't know, I see an awful dark period.
Oh, well, there is an awful dark period. But as you go down through the story of the world, there was always a time within, and there was like the restart. So I don't know, is this going to be like the restart? And those that are aware are going to survive, and those that are not aware are going to go. And that is the sad reality about it. Because I will kind of say it in a nice way within my posts on TikTok. You'd have to be psychologically fit and everything else in it. Because even this bit of a storm that happened, I laughed at it. Because I know myself that this is just a calculated event.
It isn't. You see, I've been talking to a number of people since it. And, you know, how long are we having these conversations, Darren?
You and me?
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
How long do we know each other?
Years, anyway. Yeah. It's not there yesterday.
And like, we've had events here, and we've told people, and these are the same people who tell you that they're awake. Do you know, they're awake, and we've told them, have you a month's fuel? month's food?
No.
Have you capacity to generate power? Like, we were that specific
Yeah.
about it, you know. And I was on a space last night, and a lot of the people who, as I says, will tell you they're fully awake to things, they're not.
No, but I
They're
realised that I actually made a post today on TikTok about that. But you know, there's a situation I realise now too, and I've categorised it now, and it's an awful sad situation. There's a segment of the population, I call them criers, and their purpose is to cry. They're not to do anything else, they just like crying. When I mean crying, just giving out, but going over.
Yeah.
And that's the sad reality about it. But when I look at them on a bigger aspect of the situation, there are people with multiple voids within them, and this is what's fulfilling their life.
He's crying.
It's crying, yeah.
Well, it's like a fella said last night. He says the government are inept. And I says to him, no, they're not. They do not want you living in rural Ireland. They have outlined all these plans to move you into these, what are they called, 15-minute cities and all that. Sure, they've told you what they want to do. And everyone roaring and crying that they're inept, or they won't do anything for us. Of course they won't. They don't want you living in rural Ireland. They've made that ludicrously clear.
But when you way up, we said the history of Ireland and everything else. Like Ireland, the main thing was a farming community.
Yeah.
And then next thing, they brought industrial in, and then the disconnect. That was the first disconnect. They brought you up around the big cities.
Yeah.
And then they brought the women up around the big cities and all. So that was it. So that was the first disconnect. They're all the time disconnecting us.
Yeah.
So now basically what they want rural Ireland is anyways, they wanted either a place for pension holders to plant forestry. That's basically what we're looking at. That's basically what's going to come if the people allow it.
I reckon what they're after is what's underneath.
Well, they are at that too, but when you get on about the natural energy of the land within an area is very powerful. The energy, you're on about the assets that's in it, but there's actually a natural, and if the people just tapped into that. It's like myself now, I do try my best to try and wake up people. I do call them wake up or get them more clued in or connected to themselves. It's even like the 8th of February now, we're up on the hill of Tara. I'm calling a gathering, but that's a gathering for the well-being of the people, for them to get more clued in. And with the benefit of that, I bring them on a heart chakra journey. That's to do with cleansing of their heart. And then I'm going to bring them and connect to the energy of the land. And with that, they'll be better people coming out.
Yeah.
Are you on about the ley lines and that kind of stuff? Is that
No, I'm not. It's like within and every situation, everything has an energy. Like, you could go out there and you see a tree and you can connect with that tree and you can journey into that tree and that tree would have a message for you. Because if we were here this evening and we opened up sacred space and I brought the tree on the journey, you get a message out of this shed. There'd be an energy and there'd be something in this shed and you get a message out with.
Is it easy done?
It's easy enough done, all right, yeah.
How come...
Try it.
Well, that's it. Can you do it live?
You can if you want to.
Wait for the Patreon. That's what we'll do. Now you scutters, you'll get nothing for nothing. How come people nowadays has 100% faith in science? And science will tell you that everything is made up of atoms, which are energy.
Yeah.
And they can't make the connect then that everything is energy, everything is frequency. I don't understand how you can 100% believe in science, and then if someone like me or you says you need to learn about energy and frequency, that they think, oh, well, he's mad.
Well, do you
He's
see,
mad,
this is the concept. Then again, at the end of the day, like, they just take us as normal people and what we know, but if someone with a couple of lectures behind, they must know. This is what we call the massive brainwash of people.
Yeah. I remember an old man that used to go to Killarney Sheep Mart, and we were drinking one evening in a pub. It was called O'Grady's.
Yeah.
And he was on about, intelligence and this, that, and the other, and he had a tissue paper.
Yeah.
And he burst it into flames in his hand.
Yeah.
And he says, when you can do that, he says, you come and talk to me.
Yeah.
And to this day, I don't know how he done it. The only thing that I can see is he had spent so much time on his own up the mountain. Do you know?
Yeah, but
That he had to be in touch with something else.
Well, but you see
know?
what he done then, he built up it's a natural way if you keep working on that, so he had it in such a way that he could actually cause you a night up the flame. He had built up that much energy and heat in his hands.
Well, everyone that witnessed it has often wondered how the feck he done it, do you know? And there's been several theories, matches and lighters and the whole lot. But I seen no match or lighter. I thought it was...
Oh no, there's a natural energy within your hands, and if you work on that enough, you can actually. This is what, and he had to create such a stage that he could actually cause the energy was built up and manifested that much, and then he could create a flame.
I thought it was class. I thought it was absolutely class. With regards to, I don't know if you want to talk about it or not, but when I initially met you, it was the Castlerea says no or that.
Oh, well, that's right. Well, we met up in Castlerea with no. Well, that's what I realised about it.
But in fairness to yourself, it was a totally different approach to anywhere else I was, because you were kind of the main guy speaking on the day, introducing the speakers. But the first thing you told everyone was, ye need to raise your energy and your frequency, and you were coming at it from a spiritual standpoint, which I liked, so I did.
Yeah, well,
know.
the way I looked at it, and if you had the mass people there and they all came as a collective, had their injury on the situation, it wouldn't have happened. I know for a fact it would not happen. That would not happen.
Yeah.
And that's what I used to say, because there was WhatsApp groups there that had set up and they were on, and there was more toxic. I said, if the intention is wrong, this is going to collapse, but you could never explain it to them.
I agree with that. And I think this, what we're doing, is an example of it. Me and you basically started this, Darren, because there was absolutely nowhere where we could see people having a real conversation. And we says, well, sure, if we start it, maybe we can have a few real conversations. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. And thankfully, because the intentions was good, it seems to be working.
Well, the intentions is right, because like when I came down here this evening, I was invited into your home.
Yeah.
And that's a rarity nowadays, because no one ever wants to do that now.
I suppose.
And then you was offered a cup of coffee, and like people are gone to the stage now when someone knocks at the door, and then they get afraid and go underneath the bed.
And then the wife told him that he smelled nice. I don't know what her intentions were, good or bad.
They were good for you. Basically, what she wanted to do, she wanted to find out what that smell was to buy you a bottle.
I'd say if she bought me a bottle and told me to fuck off, I'd say that was the fucking intention. But no, I reckon you are on the right track entirely with the energy. And I've said this, I'd be involved in numerous groups, do you know?
Yeah.
And even if an action has to be carried out.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't have the energy correct and have yourself in the mindset and that, you're not going to do it. Do you know?
Oh, no, we're not going to. But when we go back to the basic terminology, we say if you're baking a cake and the ingredients are wrong, the cake isn't going to be right. And that is basically the concept of life. You have a certain amount of ingredients. You have a certain amount of way you think, your energy and everything. And if you go around that wrong, the cake isn't going to be right.
Is there cakes that'll never be right?
I actually see a situation if anything can be solved, because I see a life with no boundaries. And I mean that. I mean you can create a life with no boundaries, because we're actually in an environment now, people create their own boundaries.
So you're like the man that brings you to the shop to get the ingredients, but it's up to yourself to get the ingredients.
The way I look at it, I do open up a pathway for them, and after that, they can either take on or not. But unfortunately, some people we cannot deal with it. Because when you go really intense into yourself, it's hard to deal with.
Yeah.
Because it's nearly a small bit like there was a fella who used to work for me one time. He was an old man. And he wasn't great in his body, and he was going out with a half body trying to do a good day's work. It's not possible. But he tried and do it. And he wouldn't give up, but you had to mind him for that. But then there's other people, they're very able bodies, and they don't know what's wrong with them, but it's actually something deep in. But they sooner go for any distraction because it's more easier to do the wrong thing than the right thing in life. That's the way I look at people now today.
Yeah.
No one wants to do anything the right way.
Yeah. One of the things me and you had a conversation about was ritual. And I used to see ritual in everything. So when I was younger, my father used to split the bale with a hay knife for the sheep or cattle, and he'd edge the hay knife, and he'd say something, muttering or stuttering under his breath whilst he was edging it. I don't know, was it a prayer for a good edge or what it was? Yeah. And then he would go at the job. Yeah. And then I used to see my mum when she'd be baking a cake and doing it, and then she'd stop at the end to draw the cross in it and lave the holes in it. There was ritual in everything. We've replaced that now with get up, get out, get back, punch a few holes in the plastic at the top of it, shove it into a microwave, spin it round, eat it, get to bed. Have we removed all aspects? Like even lighting the fire, in my opinion, was a ritual.
Well, there was a ritual, but I remember this when I say when I was asleep and fully asleep and very down. It's only when you reminisce on what things used to say. My father, I remember when he was a small man, he used to tell me that there was nothing as nice as listening to the rain hitting the galvanized on the roof of the house on a rainy night. Yeah. And it was only in the last few I thought about it. It was a meditation. So they were actually getting a natural meditation.
It was like white noise.
Yeah, so that was it. So you weigh up the situation that time. When you were underneath the galvanized roof, you were constantly getting a meditation and no one knew about it. Yeah. I went over to Knock there. It was a couple of months ago. I brought a couple of people with us. We just went over to Knock. We knew what was going on with Knock. We just, there were a lot of light workers and that, spiritual people. And we didn't know Knock. And Knock is commercial element.
That's right.
But the only respectable place below Knock, and the only place there's any true or genuine or any right bit of energy in it, is a museum below Knock.
Oh, the old stuff is
the old stuff. And when I went down to that museum and I looked around and I felt the stuff and all, I left that place and I cried. Because I realised how much of a disconnect had happened to us. Yeah. And you could actually feel the energy in it and you could sense the people that worked with it and everything else. Because when you're on about that, the leather belt there for shaving for your shave, that was a ritual. Yeah. There was an element that time, there would have been Christianity, there was a religious picture in every room. So I mind my father, God rest him too, we were born on a council estate below in Boyle, Plunkett Avenue. I was born and reared and up until the age of 19 years of age. But there was a big landing up into the thing, and I remember I used to be an awful man for going to auctions, but you're right back with a picture of our Lord. Yeah. And him down on his knees, and this was about 5 foot long by about 10 foot high.
A portrait.
It was, but it wasn't off. But I nearly dread any time to take it down. But you see, they had, and there was another thing that would be very common. The telly go off and there'd be rosaries. Rosary would be a very regular thing within our house.
Yeah, same as that.
Yeah.
My grandmother, 6 o'clock, everyone would be at it. Yeah.
We have a mighty photograph in there of an uncle of mine asleep. He fell asleep during the rosary, and the cat is asleep on his back. Yeah. So he's kneeling like that on the chair. He's asleep, and the cat is asleep. It's nice photos.
Yeah.
When we were doing the house in there, though, someone mentioned it to me. I brought a wire out above the door, going up to where where the stairs is there. Your man says, "What's behind the wire?" I said, "For the Sacred Heart."
Yeah.
And he couldn't get over it. He says, "Jeez," he says, "I haven't seen one of them going into a house in years."
Yeah.
And I says, "Well, it'll be a year." And so it will. And I had an awful job to buy one, to get one.
Oh, well, you would have an awful job because it doesn't come along on the thing. But then when you go on about it, I would do land healing too. I would do a lot of work on houses. Some houses, there's an injury attached to them, and it's got to do with natural energy lines. And then there could be actually stagnant injury in the house due to what's gone on in the past. So you'd have to grid the house and you'd have to put protection on the house, and oftentimes it's a psychopath journey.
What's the energy like up here?
Oh, the energy is very good up here. I tell you, I came down to this farm, it would be last summer.
Yeah.
And I was absolutely amazed by it. And I had to talk to yourself. I remember having a good conversation to myself, and I said to myself, because I do like to be up people, because you could see this fella and you couldn't know him from Marshall to Adam or what. So people can blow wind.
Yeah.
But I had a discussion with you, and I said to myself, yes, that man genuine is a true aspect in love for the country. Which I admire.
That's all that.
But then there's other people then they do talk the talk, and they do walk, but they haven't a dare at all. They just all talk.
Well, sure,
See, I can read people.
Yeah.
I do read people. And it's nice to meet a person and actually sit down and have a conversation. Because I'd often, we say, if you're talking to people there, you might meet them face to face. I'd have multiple conversations with them, but it'd be at all different times and different hours.
Yeah.
Just to see exactly how they're concurrent.
Yeah.
Because if a person is kind of putting on a show,
Yeah,
they can't keep it concurrent.
Yeah.
So I'm actually reading them on the phone.
Yeah.
Because the purpose of a shaman and a true and origin shaman or shaman, they're all the time a servant. Because when you even go into the situation, bring a person on a journey, it's not to go to sleep. You're observing there. You have to be watching all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'd often open up a fire ceremony there, and you could have 40 people around that fire ceremony there. And when you open up that, then you had to go, because that's an open space, then you had to be fully alert and everything else, because they're opened into something can come in and you have to contain the energy. And I remember I went to a fire ceremony, I opened it up to one day, thinking that you might actually do better things for people. Above in Clonmel, it was, I actually brought up an oak tree there too, and so did in wooden that day. A fella broke the circle, and I was thinking to myself, what the hell is going on here? And I had to try and contain, and afterwards I said, you can't do that. But then I know myself, some things, you can't bring some things to some people. And I learned a lesson that day. And I said, that's the thing I'll never do again. Because the other people were under jeopardy when that happened. Or because another man's stupidity.
Well, there's some people as well that aren't ready to accept the idea of spirituality and frequency and stuff like that, you know.
But then now, respectfully, then at the end of the day, because when I would have been told to him, then he should not participate at the walk out of it then too.
Yeah.
Because you have to, it's the element of respect.
Yeah.
So if you go in and you participate in something, you go in with a wholeheartedly, you don't go in at all.
Yeah.
It's a bit like when you go to work, that day, there's no point going half measure because there's no point.
No.
You have to go hopefully or not at all.
Yeah.
But it's like you'd often see there a post like, if you're having a bad day, just go home and go to. But that's the truest thing that person ever said. Because nothing would be right.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it myself because I got to change every day. I get up in the morning and I do this thing. It's called breathe. And when I mean breathe, I do spend a half an hour every morning on myself, preparing myself for the day, form of gratitude and protecting myself and calling in my guides and everything else and manifesting something for that day, no matter how small it would be. And it's an awful funny situation, and it's like you could go into a finish station and you might get a free cup of coffee.
Yeah.
But you built up morale with the people and you have a conversation with them, and where do you get that nowadays?
You mentioned the thing, and it's funny because I actually got a book there and I'm reading it at the minute, Gratitude.
Gratitude, yeah.
And it's actually like way more important
Than you
actually think,
yeah.
You know. And it is something that, I don't know, I think we're actually good at it, well, personally okay at it in some stages, but usually it's the most important that you actually find you don't show gratitude towards or show thankfulness towards, like family and...
I heard a mighty statement on that. When the blind man gets his sight back, he throws away the shtick that helped him all his life.
Yeah.
Now, isn't that powerful?
That is...
Yeah.
I read that and I thought, my fucking God, that is true.
But you know what has happened there? This is the thing. But we're in a society now that anything can be thrown away.
Aye, but even so...
But he should have actually hold that stick every morning and said, I am so thankful for the years you were with me.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And respect that stick.
Yeah.
But you know, you'd often see situations when people get things windfall and it wouldn't be in the right way. It doesn't last them.
Jaden was there with me one day. There's an old hammer above there.
Yeah.
And it's well worn, you know. And he says to me, "Wouldn't you think you'd get rid of that?" And I says, "No." I says, "Because my uncle's hand is tracked in it.
Yeah.
And I'll never get rid of that. Do you know? Even though you couldn't hit anything with it or it'll break in two, do you know?"
But you know, his energies are in that hammer.
Of course it is.
And if you were to go off there and you were to hold that hammer there, you get a message out of that hammer, and you would journey back in time with that hammer. It's just like that shovel there, the spade. We said the spade. They all have an energy there, and the people their energies in that.
Yeah.
And they'd have messages out of that. That's how powerful stuff is. We're in a society now when you weigh up about it. Your clothes comes from some foreign. There's no energy in it. It's all negative energy. So you wear negative energy every day.
Well, this is my bother with, do you know the degree of throwing away that takes place? There was a lot of stuff on this farm that had came off jobs and came from other places and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'd be kind of like, no, that's clutter, all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But if there was something that had worked here, do you know, or something like those safes outside in the patio or that, I've been offered silly amounts of money for them. But I remember that my uncle had to set up a block and tackle and chains and roll them on bears, and they're a prick to move. And there was no proper machinery to do it, do you know? Sure, how could you part with that?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
You couldn't part with it.
But this is the thing I had to admire about you, and I've heard you a few times about, is the respect and the respect element you have for your uncle, which I had to admire.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I had to admire about you. You do incorporate your uncle on a regular basis.
Yeah,
And that is a great thing for yourself as a person that actually does that.
yeah.
And I had to admire you for that, and well done you, because it's a rarity today, to be honest with you.
Well,
I would
every
look
time-
at-
I believe every time you do something like that as well, that you're actually calling them, you know.
Oh, well, they're all the time looking at it,
Yeah.
and they're saying, well, fair do, James, to give me another little bit of a dig in there.
Do you know another thing that we did a few times as well? We'll have a huge, not personally, but a friend of mine would have a huge collection of the sympathy cards
Yes.
from like people that died around the place.
Yeah.
Huge collection. I mean, you're going back over 100 years.
Yeah.
You know, and we just read their names out loud.
Yeah.
You know, and I think there's something.
Oh, but
to
there
that,
is. You're
you
giving
know.
them recognition. Once you
Yeah.
speak it out, you're giving them recognition. Because that's when I went on to my ancestral island. I was met with all these angry people. And it was like a recognition. Oh, because me sitting there and you sitting there, there was a lot of people before us came here to have us here today. And we're sitting here, some people are oblivious. I'm not oblivious now, and you're not oblivious, and this man isn't oblivious. But there's a lot of people there. But in this instant, they wonder why has time changed so much now. And if it's not kind of practice again, like myself and yourself and this man will go sometime too, and it'll be 20 years down the road.
Yeah.
And then we won't be remembered then again.
No, and you see, life is so short, and what I'm seeing at the moment is people now are not having an impact on the ones closest to them. Do you know? And the truth of the matter is, the masses, do you know how many people are well known from, do you know, a long time ago? Very few. You know, there's very few well-known people from a long time ago when you think of the grand scheme of how many people were alive at the time. So the only ones who are going to remember you are the ones you were closest to.
Oh, well, the way I look at life, and you go around and you're talking to people every day, and you yourself be talking to people every day. If you do something good for a person, that person will remember you.
Oh, they will, but what I'm trying to say is, how many people are doing anything good? They're not.
No, they're not, but that's what I'm telling you. But this is where there's actually a battle we can win, and if people came along on it, and they all came along as a collective and put out a positive energy, you'd win this battle. Because it's all got to do with energy. But I'd be looking at a TikTok there, and I'd often put up a situation. I'd be just seeing what way the mind at work. And I was beyond the Westport one evening anyways, and there was a lot of people in the middle of the square with Palestine flags. And I put up the post Westport this evening, and all the traction that came there. And I said to myself, they're mad to be drawn to negative behaviour. They're absolutely drawn. It's nearly like the magnet. And you can talk about the collective of the people then when that's what they draw to.
Well, isn't that similar to what David said about it, that conflict is, what did he say? Conflict is promoted on all them social medias. Like he says it here, the best TikToks he ever has to spread are the ones where everyone in the comments is arguing with each other.
David Harrington.
David Harrington.
Oh, sorry, I was thinking of the cherry there. We have a lot of Davids, I noticed.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
Is there a natural attraction to...
Yeah, because we're taking on Goliath, so yeah, that's what we're doing. The state is Goliath, so we're throwing in the Davids at the moment. No, but he said that, and that is unnatural, really. Do you know?
Well, it's a situation too was about it, and it just shows the general mindset of the people that's actually on social. I do call it the TikTok bubble. And that can very much reflect, we say, within the general election. Like, I just ran I knew you weren't going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
But it was a way of getting your voice out.
Yeah.
And going around there. But there was people, we said, that actually had a good popularity were on TikTok with likes, follows and shares.
Yeah, but...
And they thought that they were going to win the election, but they weren't going to win the election because they're not knowing the community.
No.
And I used to say about, if you're genuine about running for politics, this is only kind of like foreplay.
Yeah.
You're not getting ready for the main session yet, but after this, get known in your community and you might have some headway.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the sad reality about it. And some people do still think it was all, and I do, I don't even talk about it anymore because I said to myself, this mindset is just...
But
focus.
It's a dual reality too. It's a funny thing. You have the tangible reality that you're living in, the physical world and all the rest of it. And then you have this online reality. But the person that you're drawn to online in the physical world is the person you'll stay away from.
Yeah.
You will not go over to that fella that's ranting and roaring. Do you know, you won't. And I see it in my own life. People look like you stay back from here. But for some reason, online, they're drawn to it. And it's strange. It's strange to me, so it is. Do you know? How many people I've met there and they go to you, geez, you're actually a nice fella. And you'll say, well, why didn't you think, oh, I've heard about you. And you're thinking, well, sure, you don't know me. So you don't. You know, it's strange.
Yeah, but you see, this is the situation about, and this is where people have to, like, there's only one way of knowing the true reality yourself. You meet a person yourself and you talk to them directly.
Yeah.
You never go on second-hand information. Because unfortunately, the country we're in Ireland, where we say after the fourth or fifth person, it could be a fly and at the end of the day it might be a line.
Yeah.
That's the simple. They manifest stuff, but they like to create stuff that's wrong. And that's the thing I know more and more. There's
a mighty book. Do you remember that programme, Ice Road Truckers?
Yeah.
There was a fella on that, Alex Debegorsky. He was big on religion and he had a rake of children and he had this great laugh. I used to enjoy watching him go, oh. He was always in good form, do you know? Yeah. But he was a bouncer. He had loads of jobs before he was a trucker.
Yeah.
And he said, you know, he says, be very careful in a bar or a club insulting a fella.
Yeah.
Because he says that man might have lost everything and the only thing that he might have left is his own little bit of pride.
Yeah.
Do you know? And I thought it was, jeez, I says, that's powerful stuff. So
it made sense because at the end of the day, everyone, he wasn't going to, everyone wants something, and that was, he wanted to keep his bit of pride, and he wasn't going to let that. And you had to admire the man that was going to actually put up a fight to keep his pride.
That's it.
Because if he was going to bottle out and let someone to take his pride, like, where was he? He wasn't a man.
But he had nothing left then.
Yeah, but you see, this is where we've gone into the category in society. People will not actually stand up and try and hold on to something now. They're very easy to shy away.
But I think that all comes down to, you know, a lot of people says it's obedience and stuff like that. I think your man, that Greek philosopher said, it was a Plato or that. He says if a doctor and a sweet shop owner ran for an election, the sweet shop owner would always win.
Yeah.
Because the doctor might be doing it for your good, but it hurts and it doesn't taste nice or that. Whereas your man Everton is nice.
Yeah.
So people today have got used to the sweet shop owner. The government, he gives you money every week. The government, you know, if you're living off the state of that, he gives you money every week. he plasters over your boo-boos when you're sore and all this. People now, and I do laugh at them, they're in no ways independent from the state, and they start criticising it. You're only in a position to criticise it if you don't need it. Now, there's a big difference between being dependent on it and using it.
Yeah,
I'd say to anyone,
yeah,
use it,
yeah.
but don't depend on it.
But do you not have a right to criticise, seeing as like pretty much, let's say 70-80% of everything that you earn goes back?
Oh, certainly. But
Well, this is a situation, didn't we say, this is what you participate in, and if enough you stood up together when you be working as a civilised unit going and said we won't do this anymore, but then collectively you all go in and vote for this, so how can you change? It's like after the local election, I was in Castlerea, and I said, you have a choice, and you were speaking the same when you were running around too, and I said, you have a choice to change. But if you vote in the same people, this is going to come in tenfold very quick.
Yes.
And it did.
Yeah.
Because the government sat back, and it's once again, that's why I see Micheál Martin, he was above in Roscommon there, he was talking and had a couple of conversations, and then next thing the reporter said, and what about the junior ministers? And I said, oh.
Yeah, moved on.
Nah, they don't care.
No, they don't. But you see, they get back to what Darren was on. You have, you can criticise something, but the point about it is, if you're relying on it, you can criticise as much as you want, but you're not in a position to change it. You can't. We're not in a position to. It's like the farmer criticising Europe, but taking a payment from them.
I get what you're saying. I do get what
If
you're saying.
if you went to a meeting and it'd be a powerful statement, if you were a farmer and you says, I don't take subsidies and I have never taken subsidies and this is my position. Well, then I'd be very interested in that man's position. I'd say, well, this fella's criticising Europe from a standpoint that he doesn't engage with it.
Yeah.
How do you make that argument if you're engaging with them?
So he's not a hypocrite, is what you're saying.
Well, it is hypocrisy. So
Well,
it is,
it is, but you see, this is where the sense of empowerment is, and when people has got to court and lost the throne. You're relying on someone else to take control of your life, and unfortunately, people has given control of their life to these people. And that's not the way we're designed. We're coming into this world, we're coming as free spirits.
Yes.
We're not as controlled. And when you're born into this world, you have a natural connection. And the next thing, have us in such a stage in society now, that you give away your kids at a young age to get diluted for what? To participate in society, to make money for them, not for yourself. There's no one in this world that very few actually is going to make something for themselves. You're making it for someone else. And the poor people then, we say, that are actually living on this weekly amount of money then, that the working man judging and criticising them too. But then you way up, I don't know what the order is now. And they're living in a house and it's had to buy a bag of coal. They're not living either. So they're not giving them any life. It's nearly a bit like the people that's on the door, the government looks at them like the mongrel dog and we give them the scraps, and then the people's a bit more higher up in the chain and middle of the chain is criticising them.
Yeah.
It's all divide all the time, and that's the way they want it.
Well, sure, this was my point about the left and the right, roaring at each other in Dublin. And if they'd sit down together, they'd realise they probably agreed on 70% of stuff and fell out about the 30 in the difference. Like, there was a difference. Some of them were in favour of migration and the other crowd were against migration. But if you says, well, should all Irish people be housed? Everyone would say, oh, well, they should, yeah. But there was no voice going, hold on a second, maybe instead of us waving different flags and roaring like bulls here at each other, maybe we could talk.
But then, when you way up, when we're on about the divide and all, there was always a divide within this country. Like, when we left the 6 counties go down to, and they're still gone.
Yeah.
But I went down and I spoke to people down there and the Catholic people and everything else. There was houses built by local authorities that time then, but they were built for Protestants.
Yeah.
And they had to go in and squat within them houses. Yeah. And they fought and they got them houses.
Yeah.
That's what they done.
But I don't think a lot of people down here realises what the people in the north went through. You were in a situation where you know, you couldn't vote, your mother or father couldn't vote, you wouldn't be given a job in the state.
Yeah.
You could have a child, like I have a lot of mates up there.
Yeah.
You could have a child who was the brightest in the class,
Yeah.
and you knew that they would have to immigrate to get a good job,
Yeah.
because they knew that as a Catholic you were not getting a good
yeah.
civil service job. You know, it was absolutely, the things that the people went through up there were absolutely scandalous.
Well, it was,
Absolutely
yeah,
scandalous.
it is awful. It was, but then at the end of the day, and they see us in a small bit of predicament, and to say, well, yeah, but you didn't really entertain us when we were in trouble, and we didn't.
No, that I don't know. I have a lot of friends and support, and they are interested in.
That side of things, yeah. To be honest with you, when you look at it, when it was going right, hot and heavy down there, 6 o'clock news would come on there, you see it going on. No one blinked an eyelid that really did that, because it wasn't at their door. So now this other situation is another disconnect again. Like some people say, well, what's going on in the country isn't affecting me, so it's all right.
Yeah,
so
but
it's only continuation, only a different ingredient has come into the prospect.
Yeah, I remember being with a man one time who was explaining to people what was going on in the north and why it was wrong and the whole lot. Not too far from here, next town. And there was people in the bar told him to get out.
Yeah.
That he was just bringing the mood down. Can't you shut up to fuck? It's not affecting us down here.
Yeah, but you see, but then at the end of the day, then they should have kind of respected the man and let him talk, because, you know, and a lot got to do with healing too, and shamanic healing. You know, something that spoke out is healing in itself.
Yeah.
So actually, he wanted a lot of ears to hear it, and it was actually helping him too.
Yeah.
And it was actually, if the people sat back, they should say to themselves, well, instead of not happening in my door, they should be grateful. Well, Jesus, thanks be to God, it's not as bad as that here.
Yeah.
But we've seen that loads of times where people just don't want to hear it. You know?
Well, you see, it's
all
the funny thing. It's a very Irish thing. I don't understand it.
Well, I have a different technique. Do you know why they don't want to hear it? When something externally is happening and that affects you, it's triggering something in you. So they'd had to look deep within them to see what was that triggering in them. So it might be lacking something.
It's like fight or flight kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of...
Because if an external element can actually affect you inside, you had to do a lot of looking inside to see why is that affecting you.
It's your gut as well, to see. I think your gut just tickles and when you hear stuff like that.
Well, you're right. When you're on about your gut or them emotions, that would be actually a natural divining tool. That would be actually giving you an instinct to something else.
And people don't trust their gut anymore, you know. Again, it's that disconnect.
Well, it's all the disconnect, and that's what it was. Because at the end of the day, we say they didn't want me, Vincent Byrne or James Conway, yourself, to go out there in the garden and have your own judgment and your own opinion on things, because that would be very wrong. You couldn't be controlled.
Yeah.
Because, like, when you way up, we say rituals and everything else, like, way up one time, when we say before they brought in this modern machinery and everything else, when there be hay turning and everything, that was a ritual, that was a meeting place. And I tell you what, another situation was, many a person actually met their lifelong partner at that.
Yeah.
It was actually a meeting place.
Yeah.
So that was an element, a lot of elements discarded straight away. See, technology is advantages and there's disadvantages.
Have you ever read the Unabomber's Manifesto?
No.
You want to read that for yourself?
I must.
Ted Kaczynski. The man, he went about things in the wrong way, but he was a genius. What is the name of it? Technology and the Future of Society or something like that. It's a hell of a read. It's a hell of a read because he identifies all of this. When was it the 80s? He's on about a basic model of AI, do you know?
Oh, yeah, but you see, all I can say about that man, that he would be getting visions, and you see, people do get visions. Like I did often, like you'd hear about someone will tell you something, and next thing that it manifests in the future, but it's a true and accurate vision. They're actually getting a vision into the future.
Well, he got a vision of it anyways, and he wrote it out, and if you listen to it, he was on the mark. He was on the mark. Vincent, we're going to finish this is the YouTube part.
Pleasure anyways.
Follow us to the Patreon, Spotify, Darren, is it? Patreon, Spotify. And we'll go on a spiritual journey with the help of God. We're going to try it anyway. And thanks everyone for your continued support. Thank you.
Still to come in part 2 of the show.
Yeah.
And explained how and what could be done in a different level of situation. One time a day there was 3 generations within in the house, and there was knowledge being given on. And this, what about yourself? People have to take responsibility. And if people don't take responsibility for it themselves, things will never change.
Which it was on about was the trans issue. And she says, rule number 1 in any of that work, you do not reinforce delusion.
Yeah.
She says, if someone comes to you and says something that you know to be physically untrue, you have to tell them. They're all on about revolution as if it's going to start tomorrow morning. The revolution is to move away from it and allow them people to come towards you. But you're going to grace us with a shamanic journey.
I'll grace you with a shamanic journey. I'll bring the 2 of you to your ancestral island.
You have? Stand up or sit down?
Sit down. This man will have to get a seat here. Breathe in through your nose. Fill your lungs to capacity. Hold your breath. And exhale.